An important follow-up on one of the weirdest arguments ever made about the military's anti-gay don't ask, don't tell policy. Recall this surreal back and forth between Senator Carl Levin on the Armed Forces Committee and a retired Marine general named Jack Sheehan.
That was the largest massacre in Europe since World War II.
Did the Dutch leaders tell you it was because there were gay soldiers there?
It was a combination.
Did they tell you that? That's my question. They did.
They included that as part of the problem.
Pressed to name these people, he said, were Dutch leaders who supposedly told him that the Srebrenica massacre happened because the Dutch had gay soldiers on their payroll. General Jack Sheehan said he based his allegation on something he was told by a man named Hankman Berman. The Dutch responded by saying, Hankman who? There was a former chief of staff in the Dutch Defense Ministry whose name was General Henk van den Bremen. But if that's who General Jack Sheehan was thinking about as Hankman Berman, the general made it clear that he had never actually said such a crazy thing about the gay soldiers or the Dutch military. General Sheehan has now apologized. He has written an apology letter to General Bremen, saying that the U.S. military, and this is a letter that the U.S. military released today. In it, General Sheehan says, quote, I am sorry that my recent public recollection of those discussions of 15 years ago inaccurately reflected your thinking on some specific social issues in the military. To be clear, the failure on the ground in Srebrenica, he said, was in no way the fault of individual soldiers. You hear that, liberal, not discriminating Dutch soldiers? You are not responsible for a genocide. You're welcome, as you were. Meanwhile, in our country that does discriminate against gay people who want to serve in the military, the president seems to be at odds with his own Department of Justice. President Obama has called himself a fierce advocate for gay rights. He says he wants to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He even put that pledge in his State of the Union address this year. But the federal Justice Department filed a brief last night asking for a case challenging Don't Ask, Don't Tell to be thrown out of court. Now, the Justice Department has to defend acts of Congress. It says that it's required to do so, although some say there is some wiggle room there. But you know what the Justice Department definitely doesn't have to do? Justice Department definitely doesn't have to use anti-gays in the military quotes from former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, from the 90s. The Justice Department's brief repeatedly quotes Colin Powell from 1993, speaking against gay people in the military. Colin Powell, of course, has since said that he thinks Don't Ask, Don't Tell should be repealed. Still, the Justice Department is quoting pre-changing his mind Colin Powell as being in favor of a policy that current Colin Powell opposes. Don't let the man's actual views get in the way of a not very good argument, right? Right? Fierce advocate, guys?